You know, after 40 years of hard work, pouring concrete in the Florida sun, saving every penny, skipping the cruises and fancy gadgets my buddies loved, I finally bought my dream place, a white stucco mansion on the Gulf Coast. I imagined a gentle retirement, just me and the sound of waves, reading in my sunroom while pelicans dived outside. The moving trucks hadn't even finished unloading my boxes when the trouble started. I was polishing a crystal tumbler in the kitchen, thinking about pouring my first real bourbon here, when my cell phone rang so loud it cut through the peace like a chainsaw. For a split second, I thought it was one of my old golf buddies calling to congratulate me. Maybe Charlie, or my brother, checking in. But no. It was my son-in-law, Drew Thompson. "Hey, old man! Just a heads up, we're on our way down. There'll be 13 of us, maybe more, counting kids. Hope you've got plenty of beds, towels, you know the drill. Oh, and we'll be staying at least 2 weeks, so stock up." His words crashed over me like a hurricane. He didn't ask. Didn't check if I was even in the mood for company. My daughter, Melissa, had been gone 3 years now, but Drew treated me like I was his personal retirement plan. "You should have told us you bought a beach house, Grandpa Joe," he chuckled. "My buddies can't wait to see the place. It's practically a family resort." I gripped the counter so hard my knuckles turned white. "Drew, I only just moved in. The house is a mess, there are boxes everywhere." Yeah, he interrupted. "Listen, you're retired. What else are you gonna do? You got all that space. You know, family comes first." Family? That word used to mean something. These days, I think it's just an excuse for people to take what isn't theirs. I looked out the big glass doors at my private slice of paradise, the soft white sand, the old palms swaying. This was supposed to be my reward for all the years of sacrifice. Instead, I felt like a waiter at a cheap motel. "Drew, this isn't a good." But the call was already dead. Just like that. I stared at the phone, the silence heavier than before. In less than an hour, I heard the roar of SUVs coming up the Shell driveway. They weren't exaggerating. Drew's convoy had at least 5 cars. I watched through the blinds as he got out like a conquering hero, sunglasses on, grinning, giving high fives. His girlfriend, Taylor, started live streaming before she even got out of the car. The kids were already running wild in the yard, tracking sand everywhere. Drew marched into my foyer without knocking, like he owned the place. "What do you think, Joe?" "Not bad. Taylor and I will take the master bedroom. She needs good light for her videos. Mike and Brad will grab the guest suites. The rest can figure it out." My heart pounded. "Hold on," I said, trying to sound firm. "The master's off limits. That's my room. And I didn't invite." But he just laughed. "Don't be stingy, old man. It's a vacation, lighten up. You've got money, share it." I glanced at a framed photo of Melissa, my daughter, his late wife. What would she say, seeing Drew treat me like the hired help? There was a time, years ago, when she'd call and say, "Dad, can you help us just this once?" That's how it always started. First the car payment, then the wedding ring, the mortgage when Drew's credit tanked. I tried to remember the last time Drew said thank you. I couldn't. Not when I paid for his night school. Not when I wrote the checks for hospital bills. Not when I let him stay in my old house, rent-free, after Melissa died. Now he was dividing up my rooms, while his friends carried in coolers and beer, treating my home like a rental. One of the men, Brad, maybe, winked at me. "Heard you got a pool, Joe. Where's the barbecue?" I brought steaks. I felt invisible. Even Taylor, who barely knew me, was filming a room tour, narrating. "Check out my boyfriend's grandpa's house, everyone! Millionaire's life!" Suddenly, it was all too much. My sanctuary, ruined. My peace, gone. But this time, I wouldn't just sit back and take it. Not this time. As Drew and his army flooded my house, I stood rooted to the floor. Laughter echoed through the hallways, drowning out the sound of my own thoughts. I tried to catch Taylor's eye. She was now arranging her beauty products on the bathroom counter, humming along to music blasting from her phone. The guest rooms filled up with Drew's friends tossing bags and towels everywhere. Some of the guys had already popped open beers, their feet up on my new leather couch, sandy and soaked from the beach. In the kitchen, Brad rifled through my cabinets. "Where's the good coffee, Joe? You look like a guy who'd have the fancy stuff." He grinned, not waiting for an answer, just pulled out whatever he wanted. I forced a smile. "Top shelf. Please put things back when you're done." My own voice sounded foreign, weak, almost apologetic. The truth is, I'd always been the nice guy in the family. The one who showed up with the truck when someone moved. The guy who wrote checks and never asked for them back. But as I watched my new house disappear beneath piles of luggage, pool floats, and strangers' shoes, something hardened in my chest. Taylor finally glanced my way. "Joe, you have extra chargers?" Brad forgot his. Her tone was casual, as if I was a hotel concierge. "I'll look," I muttered, heading for my office. As I opened the drawer, I saw the legal folder, the title deed, receipts for every payment I'd made on this place, and the financial records that proved how much I'd already given to Drew over the years. A quiet anger bubbled up. Just then, Drew knocked, barely, on my doorframe. "Hey, old man. We'll need you to pick up more food tomorrow. Everyone's allergic to gluten, and Taylor's vegan this week. And oh, we invited a couple more for the weekend." The disrespect wasn't even subtle. He dropped his dirty beach towel right on my armchair as he talked. I stared at the damp spots spreading on the fabric. "Drew, you didn't ask if this was okay. You just decided for me." He laughed. "You want us to leave? Tell the kids you kicked them out?" "Family, Joe. Melissa always said you were the most generous dad." He used her name like a weapon. Like my daughter's memory was currency he could spend. Something snapped. "Drew," I said quietly, "you all have until tomorrow morning. This isn't a public beach house. I needed peace. Not a circus." He stared, stunned for a second, then smirked. "You serious? We drove hours to get here. We're not going anywhere." "I am," I replied. "I'm calling a friend, a lawyer. And if you and your crew are still here by noon tomorrow, I'm calling the sheriff." He shrugged, trying to play it cool, but I saw a flicker of worry in his eyes. "You wouldn't do that. Come on, Joe. Be reasonable." I didn't answer. Instead, I stepped out and locked my office behind me. I could hear them murmuring, "He's bluffing," and "What's his problem?" But I wasn't bluffing. I pulled out my phone and called my old friend Frank, who'd been a cop for 30 years before retiring to Florida. He picked up on the second ring. "Joe! How's the new place treating you?" I told him briefly what was happening. He whistled low. "Let me know if you want a deputy out there, Joe. Don't let them walk all over you." I hung up and walked through my own house, feeling more like a stranger than ever. In the dining room, Taylor was arranging a centerpiece for her social media. "Gotta get that perfect light," she said, not looking up. Drew was already planning the next day's party. I heard him in the backyard. "We'll grill here, put the speakers there. Joe won't mind." But Joe did mind. For the first time, I really did. I tried to sleep, but the house thumped with laughter, music, the slamming of doors. At midnight, I walked out to the pool. The kids were still awake, splashing in the water, tracking puddles everywhere. No one asked permission. Under the moonlight, I realized this wasn't just about my house. It was about respect. About the difference between being a loving grandpa and being a doormat. So I made a plan. The sun would rise on a new day. I'd show them the real meaning of boundaries. Tomorrow, the circus would end. I barely slept a wink that night. Every time I drifted off, I'd hear a burst of laughter from the pool or a door slamming somewhere down the hallway. When I finally shuffled to the kitchen for coffee at dawn, I found the aftermath: empty bottles on my counters, half-eaten pizza on my new rug, and a stray bathing suit flung over the back of my armchair. My beautiful sunroom looked like the morning after a frat party. Outside, Drew was already up, barefoot, scrolling his phone on the patio. He barely looked up as I opened the door. "Morning, old man. Can you get some ice? We're almost out." I looked at him, really looked this time. He was unshaven, in wrinkled swim trunks, like a tourist with nothing to lose. I remembered the ambitious young man Melissa had brought home years ago. Somewhere along the line, he decided my kindness was his inheritance. I set my mug down. "Drew, this is your last morning here. I'm serious." He laughed. "You're not kicking us out, Joe. We drove all the way from Atlanta. Taylor's already told her followers she's staying here for a month. Her content is blowing up. The kids love it. Relax. Your guests," I said, my voice firmer than I felt. "I didn't invite half of you. You didn't ask. And now you're treating me like the help. That ends today." He put down his phone, smirking. "You gonna call the cops on your own family? Really? After all we've been through?" I didn't answer, just walked inside and started picking up empty cans. The house was quiet except for Taylor's distant voice, filming a morning routine video in my master bathroom. Even her dog was here, paw prints all over my Persian runner. By mid-morning, Drew's friends started to wake up, rubbing their eyes and heading to my kitchen like it was a free breakfast buffet. Taylor asked if I could run to the store for oat milk and some vegan snacks. Her request was so casual, so entitled, it actually made me laugh. "Taylor, do you even know my first name?" I asked. She blinked, confused. Grandpa Joe?" I shook my head and called Frank again, my retired cop friend. He answered on the first ring. "Joe, you sound rough. You want me to send a deputy?" "Give me an hour," I said. "I'm giving them one last warning. If they're not packing by noon, call it in." Frank's tone turned serious. "You're doing the right thing. No one deserves to be treated like a doormat. I'll have a cruiser nearby, just in case." With coffee in hand, I gathered everyone in the living room. They came slowly, grumbling, expecting breakfast. Drew flopped on the couch, feet up on my coffee table. Taylor was still in her robe, holding her phone out, maybe recording me. I took a deep breath. "Listen up, everyone. This isn't a hotel. You all have 2 hours to gather your things and leave. I'm not asking twice. If you're still here at noon, I'm calling the sheriff. I have the deed, and I'm pressing charges for trespassing." Blank stares. Then muttering. "He can't do that. He's bluffing. Joe, be reasonable." Drew stood up, trying to loom over me. "You're making a mistake, old man. You know how this will look. Family drama, cops showing up. You really want everyone in town talking about what a jerk you are? Melissa would be ashamed." He used her name like a weapon again. But this time, it didn't work. "Melissa would be ashamed of you," I said. "She knew what gratitude meant. She knew what respect was." Taylor's face twisted. "We just wanted to make memories, Joe. Don't ruin this." I almost softened, for a moment. But then I looked at the mess. The disrespect. The way not a single one of them had offered to clean up, cook a meal, or say thank you. "Start packing," I said. "You have 2 hours." I went to my study and closed the door, heart pounding. I half expected them to beg, to apologize. Instead, I heard angry whispers, slamming drawers, the scrape of suitcases being dragged out. Good. Maybe they were finally getting it. At 11:45, Drew knocked on my office door. Joe, let's talk. You're overreacting. How about we compromise? We'll move out of the master, just give us until the weekend. No, Drew, I said. Today. Noon. You had your fun. Now it's over. He stared at me, for the first time looking less sure of himself. You really mean it? I really mean it. He left, slamming the door behind him. As the clock ticked closer to noon, the house buzzed with movement. Taylor filmed a teary goodbye tour for her followers. Drew muttered angrily as he packed the car, tossing bags without care. His friends gave me dirty looks as they left, but a few, Brad especially, just nodded, shamefaced, and said nothing. At exactly noon, Frank texted, "Need me to call the sheriff?" I replied, "No. They're going." "Thank you, Frank." By 12:15, the house was empty again. The silence was so complete, I could hear the waves outside. For the first time in a long time, I felt like this was really my home. But as I started cleaning up their mess, my phone buzzed, a text from Drew. "This isn't over. You'll regret this." I put the phone down and kept cleaning, determined not to let him ruin my peace ever again. The first thing I did after Drew and his circus finally drove away was pour myself a real drink, bourbon neat. I stood in my kitchen, taking in the blessed silence, and listened to the slow crash of the Gulf waves beyond my windows. For a long time, I didn't move. My feet hurt, my back ached, but most of all, I felt something heavy and bittersweet, relief. I thought maybe that was it. Maybe Drew had finally understood the word. No. Maybe I could enjoy this house the way I dreamed all those years. Sunrise coffee, fishing off the dock, walks on the sand with nobody asking for favors. I let myself believe, just for an afternoon, that the hard part was over. That illusion didn't last long. It started that night. My phone buzzed again, and I recognized Drew's number. I didn't pick up. A minute later, a message appeared. "Can't believe you did this. Family means nothing to you? Even Melissa would be disgusted. The whole family's going to hear about this. Don't expect any visitors at your funeral." I turned off the phone, poured another bourbon, and sat in my sunroom. I'd promised myself I wouldn't reply. I didn't trust myself not to say something I'd regret. Besides, Drew had made threats before. Usually, he cooled down after a day or two and came back with an apology, just long enough to ask for another loan. But the next morning, I found out he wasn't bluffing this time. He posted a long rant on Facebook, his account, Taylor's account, everywhere he could, painting me as the villain. The post was full of half-truths and flat-out lies. My late wife's father kicked his only family out of his home. Treated us like criminals, called the cops on us for wanting a simple family vacation. Guess money changes people. It didn't take long for the comments to roll in. Some strangers, some people I actually knew, neighbors from Atlanta, old friends of Melissa's. "That's so sad," one wrote. "Your father-in-law sounds heartless." Another. "How could someone be so cruel after everything you've been through?" By lunchtime, Drew's story was being shared and commented on by dozens of people I hadn't heard from in years. I tried replying once, typing, "You left out a few details, Drew. You showed up uninvited with 13 people and refused to leave." I had every right. But my comment was buried under an avalanche of angry replies. People believe what they want to believe. I felt my anger rising. I wanted to call every person who'd commented, explain what really happened. But I knew it wouldn't help. Social media doesn't care about facts, only about outrage. Drew had painted himself as the suffering widower, the single dad fighting for family. Never mind that he'd been living off my generosity for years. Later that day, my neighbor, Bill, knocked on my door. He's a good man, a bit nosy, but always friendly. "Joe, everything all right? Saw a bunch of cars yesterday and then a police cruiser parked down the road. Something going on?" I almost lied, but then shrugged. Just family drama, Bill. They overstayed their welcome. I asked them to leave. He nodded, looking sympathetic. Don't let them walk over you, Joe. This is your house. You earned it. His words meant more to me than I expected. For a moment, I let myself feel proud. I'd finally set a boundary. I'd stood up for myself, for Melissa's memory, and for the home I'd built. But Drew wasn't finished. The next day, I got a call from a local reporter. Mr. Carson? I'm writing a story about local family disputes. Would you be willing to comment? I hung up without answering, but I knew the damage was done. Drew's friends, Taylor's followers, they were all feeding the story, twisting it, sharing it, making me out to be some miserly old man who'd forgotten the meaning of love. But I knew the truth. And for the first time in years, I wasn't ashamed of it. As the days passed, the storm online kept growing. I found myself cleaning more, scrubbing away every trace of Drew and his friends, every beer stain and muddy footprint. I repaired a broken fence panel, vacuumed the sand from the hallway, replaced the bathroom towels with fresh ones, trying to reclaim my space. With each task, I felt my old self return, a little more each day. But late one evening, as I was settling down to read, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a new number, a message that read, "You think you're done with us? Think again. You haven't heard the last of it." I stared at the screen, heart pounding. I'd drawn the line. But it looked like Drew was just getting started. The message lingered in my mind for days. You haven't heard the last of it. I ignored it at first. I figured Drew would run out of steam, get distracted, or move on to his next emergency. But this time was different. Within 48 hours, I saw the consequences. The first hit came from my bank, a notification about unusual account activity. Someone had tried to access my online banking from an unfamiliar location. Then, a string of spam calls, insurance scams, people asking for donations in my name, even a few thinly veiled threats about what happens to lonely old men who don't help their family. It was obvious who was behind it. Drew wasn't subtle. If he couldn't guilt me back into his life, he'd try to scare me, or ruin my peace, one call at a time. I spent a whole afternoon locking down every account I owned. New passwords. New two-step verification. I called my bank manager, Patricia, an old friend from church. If anybody tries to access my accounts or add new users, flag it and call me first. She didn't ask questions. You got it, Joe. Next, I visited my attorney, Mr. Godfrey, a quiet, steady man I'd known since Melissa was in grade school. You ever dealt with a family member turning hostile? I asked. He raised his eyebrows. More often than you'd think. What happened? I laid out the story. Drew's sudden siege, the threats, the smear campaign online. Mr. Godfrey took notes, asking careful questions. Do you have proof of your financial support? Payments, checks, emails? Every cent, I said. Melissa always told me to keep receipts. I handed over a folder. Tuition transfers, mortgage payments, wedding bills, hospital statements. Godfrey's eyes widened. You've given him nearly $300,000 in 7 years, he said. That's not generosity. That's systematic exploitation. He started outlining options. File a harassment complaint. Pursue a restraining order if threats continued. If Drew started contacting my friends or neighbors, we could sue for defamation. Most people don't stand up for themselves, Joe, Godfrey told me. You did. Now you have to protect yourself, too. That night, I finally slept better, knowing I wasn't alone. But I also realized I had to tell my side of the story, not just to lawyers or the bank, but to the people who actually mattered. So I wrote a long, clear message and posted it, once, on my own Facebook page. There's been a lot of talk about family drama lately. I want my friends and neighbors to know the truth. Over the years, I've given my son-in-law, Drew, nearly $300,000 to help with everything from tuition to medical bills to mortgages. This wasn't about money. It was about love and support. But last week, Drew brought more than a dozen uninvited guests to my new home and refused to leave when asked, then started spreading lies about me online. I won't argue or sling mud, but I won't be bullied in my own home either. If you know me, you know my door has always been open to those who show respect. The rest is between me, my attorney, and God. I turned off the comments and didn't look back. I felt lighter, as if a weight had shifted from my chest to the floor. I got a few private messages of support, one from Bill, my neighbor. "Proud of you, Joe." One from my cousin in Texas. "Don't let the bums drag you down." Even the pastor at church called and said, "You have a right to your peace, brother. Don't feel guilty for drawing a line." Drew, of course, was furious. He sent me a barrage of texts. "You're twisting everything. You're making me look bad to everyone. This is war, old man." But now, I just deleted them. My lawyer told me to keep records of any threats or harassment, so I did. Every message. Every missed call. Every vague threat. All of it got stored and backed up. Still, the online storm didn't die immediately. Drew had built himself a little echo chamber: friends, ex-coworkers, Taylor's followers, even Melissa's old college roommates, fueling the drama. They reposted his sob story, added rumors, speculated about elder abuse and heartless millionaires. But slowly, something changed. The truth always finds a way out. People started asking questions. "Wait, didn't Joe pay for Drew's house? Why would you show up with 13 people unannounced? Why did the cops come?" One by one, the loudest voices dropped away, replaced by awkward silence or private apologies. A few friends even unfriended Drew, something he definitely didn't expect. The next week, I sat on my back porch as the sun set over the Gulf, the house finally quiet, and felt something I hadn't felt in years: free. Not just from Drew's demands, but from the guilt that kept me captive. I thought of Melissa, her smile, her soft voice. "Dad, you did everything you could. You can let go now." And for the first time, I believed her. For a week, life settled into something close to normal. The house was quiet. The sea breeze drifted in each morning, cool and clean. For the first time since moving in, I made a real breakfast: eggs, coffee, toast, and ate on the back porch with nothing but the sound of waves and gulls. I even started reading novels again, something I hadn't done in years. It felt like healing. But Drew wasn't finished. The threats got nastier, the messages more desperate. "I hope you enjoy being alone, you bitter old man." One read, "Everyone will see who you really are." Another, "You'll regret this. Melissa would never forgive you." He even hinted at coming back, saying, "You better watch your back. Family never forgets." I saved every message, like my lawyer told me. Mr. Godfrey was collecting a tidy folder, one that would make a judge frown in sympathy if it ever came to that. "Don't respond. Don't feed the fire. Just document everything," he said. That advice kept me sane. But Drew wasn't just harassing me. He started contacting my neighbors, church friends, even my old boss from the utilities company. He sent emails claiming I was losing my mind, suggesting I needed help, that maybe I was a danger to myself. It was a dirty trick, but I was prepared. Bill, my neighbor, stopped by. "Joe, don't listen to that nonsense. We know the truth. Let him talk." Even so, the rumors stung. I hated the idea of people whispering about me, doubting my judgment. Some old friends were distant, probably embarrassed, unsure what to believe. That was the hardest part, knowing some people preferred the easy lie over the complicated truth. But the tide turned with one unexpected phone call. It was Taylor, Drew's girlfriend. Her voice trembled. "Joe, I didn't know what Drew was really like. I thought you were just being stubborn, but he's lost it. He's obsessed. He's telling everyone you stole from him, that you ruined his life. I can't do this anymore." I didn't gloat or say, "I told you so." I just listened. Sometimes the best revenge is letting the facts speak for themselves. A few days later, the sheriff's office called. "Mr. Carson, we received reports of harassment and threats made against you. Do you wish to pursue charges?" My answer was simple. "If he comes near my house again, I want a restraining order." They agreed and filed the paperwork. For the first time, Drew had to face real consequences. Word got out quickly. With a legal warning hanging over his head, Drew finally went quiet, at least in public. No more Facebook rants. No more angry messages. The silence was worth more than gold. But what I didn't expect was the wave of apologies that followed. Melissa's friends, old church members, even my cousin in Georgia, all reached out, quietly, one by one. "We're sorry, Joe. We didn't know the whole story. We should have trusted you." My cousin wrote, "I wish Melissa was still here. She'd set Drew straight." For a long time, I'd felt guilty for not doing more, for not being able to fix Drew, or help him grow up. But it hit me. Sometimes love means letting people face their own consequences, even if it hurts. I had to learn that the hard way. I spent the next weekend finally making the house my own. I put up family photos, not just of Melissa, but of my parents, my Navy days, old friends. I unpacked boxes I'd been ignoring, organized my books, and planted new flowers out front. I called my brother in Ohio, invited him to visit. "Just you," I laughed. "And maybe your dog." No circus. The sea air smelled sweeter. The days felt longer. My laughter came back, and so did my appetite. I realized, looking around, that I wasn't just reclaiming a house, I was reclaiming myself. But I knew, even as I started to feel safe again, that Drew wasn't truly finished. People like him don't give up easily. He'd lost his access to easy money, lost the sympathy of friends, but there was still one thing left: the court. Mr. Godfrey called me one afternoon. "Joe, Drew's trying to file for repayment, says all that money was a loan you owe him back. But your records are clear, and his stories keep changing. He doesn't have a leg to stand on." I felt a surge of confidence. Let's see him try. I've got all the facts. I'm ready. The final showdown was coming. This time, it would be on my terms. The hearing was set for a Monday morning, blue sky, gulls wheeling over the bay, a soft breeze off the Gulf. I put on my best shirt, polished my shoes, and drove to the courthouse in the next town. I'd never been to court for anything in my life, not even a traffic ticket. But as I walked up the steps, briefcase in hand, I felt calm, almost at peace. I was done hiding, done apologizing for drawing boundaries. Drew showed up late, eyes puffy, wearing a suit that didn't fit. He was alone. No Taylor, no friends. When he saw me, he didn't say a word, just shot me a look full of blame, as if I'd stolen something from him. Inside, the proceedings were straightforward. Mr. Godfrey spoke for me, clear and firm. He laid out the evidence: years of bank transfers, mortgage payments, tuition checks, messages from Drew thanking me for helping out again. Godfrey had every receipt, every date, every dollar accounted for. Drew, for his part, fumbled through a story about loans and promises, but had nothing in writing. He waved his hands, blaming grief, hard times, bad luck. He tried to appeal to the judge's sympathy. "Melissa would want us to stay a family." Joe never gave me a chance to explain. The judge listened patiently, then cut through the noise. "Mr. Carson, you have demonstrated a pattern of generosity, not legal obligation. Mr. Thompson, you have no evidence these were loans. Furthermore, your repeated harassment, documented threats, and public defamation are serious matters. I suggest you focus on rebuilding your own life, not tearing down someone else's." With a few crisp words, the case was dismissed. The judge granted a restraining order. Drew was instructed to have no further contact with me, directly, or through anyone else. Any violation would mean immediate legal consequences. I exhaled, relief spreading through my chest like sunlight. The battle was over. As I left the courthouse, I felt lighter than I had in years. Outside, my brother was waiting. He'd come as moral support, sitting quietly in the back the whole time. "You did good, Joe," he said, clapping me on the back. "Melissa would be proud." On the drive home, I thought about everything I'd lost, and everything I'd regained. The house by the Gulf was finally, truly mine. The memories were bittersweet, but I understood now that kindness didn't mean surrendering my life to someone else's demands. It meant living with open hands and a strong backbone. The following weekend, Bill and his wife came over for a barbecue. We laughed, swapped old stories, and watched the sunset turn the water to gold. For the first time, I invited friends from church, not because I felt obligated, but because I wanted to share my peace. Eventually, even the online gossip faded. Taylor moved on. Most of Drew's followers lost interest, finding new drama elsewhere. Those who mattered stuck by me, their faith in my character stronger than any rumor. One afternoon, as I tended my garden, a letter arrived, handwritten, with no return address. I recognized Drew's handwriting, shaky and angry. Inside, a single line. "You think you won, but you're alone now." I threw it away. I was alone, yes, but alone on my own terms, free and at peace. That, I realized, was the real victory. At night, I'd sit on the porch, the sea wind cool and salty, Melissa's photo on the table beside me. I'd raise a glass and say, "I hope you're proud, kiddo. I finally learned that loving someone doesn't mean losing yourself. I finally found my own peace." And with each new dawn, the future felt bright and uncluttered, wide open as the Gulf itself.